Welcome to another episode of the Watchlist series. Joining me from New York City, Dr. Tom Pitts is with us for today's episode as we discuss the AstraZeneca Phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine study, the unprecedented compression of timeline of estimated start date to estimated primary completion date. So Dr. Pitts, welcome.
Thank you, Adrian. It's great to be here. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Watchlist.
So we start this episode by asking, is President Trump preparing to fast-track the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine known as AZD1222? Well, according to a report in the Financial Times, this is exactly what is being contemplated. One tool to help make this happen, according to these reports, is the use of emergency use authorization, or the EUA, in October. Currently, a UK study involving AZD1222 has enrolled 10,000 participants, while US government agencies established the bar at 30,000 volunteers. The White House has declined to comment on any fast-tracking of AZD1222. And it should be noted that this investigational product, developed by the University of Oxford, is considered by some to be the leading COVID-19 vaccine candidate. Now, AZD1222 has arrived in America for the Phase 3 pivotal study, which has an estimated start date of August 17th, according to government disclosures. And so, TrialSite News identified a major anomaly worthy of discussion here. It involves the study's estimated primary completion date. Unlike any other major COVID-19 Phase 3 vaccine study in the West, or for that matter in the East, this study timeline is unbelievably compressed, with the estimated start date of August 17th followed by the estimated primary completion date on December 2nd of 2020. Now, does this unprecedented timeline compression have a purpose above and beyond good science and public health? So the question then is, could politics somehow influence study design in a bid to position emergency use authorization by October? This could be a powerful booster to bolster a strong position right before the election. AstraZeneca, according to Reuters, has denied such discussions. Now, currently, AstraZeneca's AZD1222 is in Phase 2 and 3 clinical trials in the UK, South Africa, Brazil, India, and now here in America. And so, to talk with us about this, Dr. Pitts is joining us. And so, Dr. Pitts, could you give us some background on AZD1222?
Thanks, Adrian. You know, this study literally just started last week, according to U.S. Disclosure and ClinicalTrials.gov. So partnered with one of the world's leading contract research organizations called IQVIA, AstraZeneca has launched the Phase 3 double-blind, placebo-controlled study of AZD1222, which is for the possible prevention of COVID-19 in adults. So it has a formal start date listed of August 18, and according to the website, the study is not yet recruiting volunteers. They are targeting 30,000 volunteers. It is a mass-scale study and includes 2 arms and 3 primary endpoints and even 7 secondary outcomes. The primary endpoints can be found on the clinicaltrial.gov page, but include things like safety, tolerability, and efficacy. The clinical trial will include at least 62 trial site locations, including well-respected principal investigators out of the University of Rochester and Columbia University.
Now, Dr. Pitts, could you comment on this unprecedented acceleration with a study start date and estimated primary completion dates?
Yes, certainly, Adrian. I mean, truly the word unprecedented comes to mind. And of course, you know, while being agile and super aggressive, because there is not a cookbook here in the COVID times, we also make sure we have to adhere to, you know, well-established scientific and safety principles. So upon reviewing the AstraZeneca AZD1222 data, especially with its start date of August 18, the study designers follow a very different pattern than the current precedent. In this case, it has appeared to be put on an incredibly more intensive accelerated fast track, as you mentioned. Again, with the estimated primary completion date, remember, they were talking about starting August 18th. The primary completion date would be on December 2nd of 2020. So that's just a little over 3.5 months. in an unprecedented move, materially deviating from peer trials like those from Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, not to mention the Chinese biotech phase 3 studies. Given the established target dates, it's literally possible that if the study team can work tirelessly to enroll and treat the participants, they would be able to accumulate enough data for an assessment leading to an emergency use authorization before even the November 3rd election.
So what about other phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine trials? Any thoughts on any that might have stood out to you?
Yeah, TrialSite reviewed the other two critical phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine trials ongoing in the United States and of course, abroad. Here, the authors sought to determine if the AstraZeneca study term between study start date and estimated primary completion date truly deviated markedly from comparable peers. And this turns out to be the case. In the case of the prominent Moderna, which was the mRNA 1273 trial, the start date of the phase 3 study was July 27, 2020. Now the estimated primary completion date is actually October 27, 2021, a little over a year from the start date, and the estimated final date is the same. But what about the promising BNT162 trial? Interestingly, TrialSite also reviewed the BioNTech Pfizer BNT162 phase 3 critical trial. In that case, the study start date was April 29, 2020, with an estimated primary completion date of April 16, 2021, a year later, with a final estimated completion date of November 11, 2022. In both the case of Moderna and Pfizer, at least a year passes between the phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine start date and the estimated primary completion date. This falls in line with the more traditional historical precedent.
Now, any other phase 3 studies around the world that might have caught your attention?
Absolutely. TrialSite starts with the massive Janssen, which is J&J sponsored phase 3 clinical trial, testing its experimental vaccine called AD26.cov2.s, which was tested on 60,000 participants around the world. It had a start date of September 5th, 2020. The study's estimated primary completion date, fitting the norm for such a large study, is March 10th, 2023. So we're talking about 2.5 years from the start date. In the UK, the University of Oxford leads the study of the same study drug, also called CHAdOX1 NCOV19, which involves AZD1222. And TrialSite uncovered that study start date was May 28th, 2020, with an estimated primary completion date of August 2021. So again, just shy of a year and a half after the start date, and an estimated completion date during the same time. On the Chinese biotech vaccine makers, a similar pattern was also observed. So China National Biotech now conducts its phase 3 study for its inactivated COVID-19 vaccine, which is going to target 45,000 participants. The study start date was July 16th, and the estimated primary completion date is March 16th, 2021. So 7 months after the start, with an estimated study completion date of September 2021. Chinese biotech Sinovac is also conducting a phase 3 COVID-19 trial, which commenced July 21st, 2020, and has a scheduled estimated primary completion date over a year later on September 21st, 2020, with an estimated study completion date of October 2021.
Well, yeah, and to your point, we have here, and I'm going to put this graph up for our audience, we have a summary of the COVID-19 vaccine studies to date with start dates and estimated primary completion dates. And you can see Moderna, 15 months, Pfizer, BioNTech, 12 months, J&J, as you mentioned earlier, 30 months, you've got 7, 14, and 15, and then you've got AstraZeneca with 3.5 months. So as you can see in this table, AstraZeneca has dramatically deviated from any of its peers in the Western world, including the maker of the same vaccine candidate, University of Oxford. And in one case, the duration between start date and estimated primary completion date is under a year, as you were pointing out, and that's with the China National Biotech. So, yeah, in this way, the AZD1222 trial in the USA takes on a compressed timeline similar to the other major study, the Gamaleya study in Russia. So let's then talk about IQVIA. Could you expand on that?
Clinical research organization giant IQVIA was selected as the key collaborator and service provider for the pivotal study. One of the largest, if not the largest, and most sophisticated clinical trial services firms in the world, IQVIA has been considering virtual clinical trials for a long time and is perhaps a leader in assembling various technologies to accelerate studies, where and when feasible, that is. This study becomes perhaps one of the most important in IQVIA's history. The company is the result of a merger between CRO Quintiles and pharmaceutical information firm IMS. Now let's bring it back to AZD 1222. Based on all precedent, announcing an October emergency use authorization option for the AZD 1222 COVID-19 vaccine would be premature. But as TrialSite has identified, perhaps conceivable based on how the study is designed. The study protocol has established an incredibly aggressive estimated primary completion date timeline.
And that's a good point. And we'll certainly be keeping track of this story as it continues to go forward and develop. So, well, thanks again, Dr. Pitts. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. It's been great.
It's always a pleasure, Adrian. And I'd like to personally thank each and every one of you in the audience for joining us on the watch list today.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone else, once again, thanks for joining us. And this has been another presentation of the Watchlist episode, and we will see you all